Okay. No worries, Una. You can go 30 minutes. I shall make absolutely sure that I've covered my bit in hopefully no more than sort of 15 to 20 minutes. And then what I'd really like to do is for us to have more of an open conversation, really. And for others, there'll be plenty. I've looked at the list, and out of the 19 people who are here, I think quite a lot of people have got experiences with reviewing. So I would like us to have more of an open conversation, really, and to share experiences and be able to ask, obviously, questions. So the sorts of things that I thought might be helpful to cover, because you know, different members of the audience, or if you're listening to the recording, might be at different stages with regards to their experience as a researcher and their engagement with peer-reviewed journals, and particularly the process of reviewing. So I thought I'll just give a quick overview of the peer review process, just make sure we're all on the same page, and then cover what particular role the reviewer takes in this process, in this peer review process, and then finally, why should I bother? You know, why should I become a reviewer? What's in it for me? And I should really start with clarifying where I'm coming from, what my particular experience is, and why it's so important for us to also move on to sharing as a group here. I'm saying that because I work within, and this also includes academic peer review, within a particular field, and that is the field of organisation studies, and particularly the sub area of leadership research. And within that, my specialism is around critical qualitative leadership studies research. I think that's really important to say, because every disciplinary field, every journal will, although we abide to the same sort of processes, will obviously work within their field, within their remit of what, and will be informed by what they see as high quality, rigorous research. Yeah. And depending on disciplinary fields, also there might be some slight variations within the peer review process, for example. Yeah. I should also say that my experience has been as an editor, as a reviewer, predominantly with Sage journals. So I work very closely with the publisher Sage. Not just on the book projects and being editor on books, which is very, very different to journal reviewing, but also with a view to journals. So I started out when I was a PhD student as a book review editor for the Sage Journal Leadership, which is my true home journal. It's the audience for critical leadership studies research. So this is the audience I work most closely with in terms of my own research publications, but also being involved in that community in terms of, well, different roles I've fulfilled over the year. As I said, at the start, book review editor. Then I moved on. I've guest edited as guest associate editor, special issues for leadership, management learning, which is also a Sage journal, and for advancing in human resource development. And over the last, well, I started January 2023, so just over a year ago, I have then moved on to being a co-editor-in-chief. So I share the role with somebody else, but I'm co-editor-in-chief for the journal Leadership. Nelly.
Sorry.
That's okay. I think somehow, Nelly, you keep being unmuted and I keep being muted. I'm not entirely sure how or why this is happening. Maybe it's a new fancy update that MS Teams has done. Okay, so I think it's important to state that, and it's important to state that because as you are thinking about getting involved with peer-reviewed journals and maybe reviewing, it's really important to think about you know, where your home might be, what your community is, because the benefits, as I'll point out, will be largest, I would say, when you are working within your community. And over time, I certainly have moved from being a reviewer, and I've reviewed for far more journals over, you know, time. I've literally just had something ping through from somewhere I've never reviewed before. But I've also moved on in that community. So from first reviewer to a section editor, guest associate editor, to editor-in-chief. And, you know, a lot of the work that I now do as a co-editor-in-chief is really making sure I protect the space and the community. I support and protect it. Okay. Now, how and why am I a reviewer in lots of different places? Usually, and I'll cover this again later, because I've either submitted articles to a journal and published in that journal, and or have been contacted because I'm on some sort of database or somebody's radar as somebody who's knowledgeable about a certain area of leadership. And we'll talk more about how you can create opportunities for becoming a reviewer yourself later on. So what is the importance behind peer reviews? Well, and we can debate that for a long time, but arguably a thorough, carefully done peer review should be at the heart of any academic journal aiming to produce, to publish cutting edge, rigorous research. Why? Because it adds the academic scrutiny. You will have a number of peer reviews ranging by journal and type of submission. Some have no peer review, some have one, some have 2, 3, sometimes I've even seen 4 peer reviews per manuscript. But what these do, each peer review in and of itself, is somebody who has relevant expertise in that area reading your manuscript and providing a critical but constructive set of feedback that really unpicks your manuscript, puts it under a really fine lens, not with a view to rubbishing it, but with a view to really rigorously asking questions around the quality, the rigor of your methods, of your conceptual contribution. Okay, so arguably, the more constructive feedback you get, the better your article is going to be. And the less rigorous peer review, the less rigorous feedback, the more likely it could be that your work might have flaws or areas that require further development that weren't detected. Okay. So peer review, I think, is and will probably remain the mainstay of academic publication evaluation, adding that level of rigor. But it's, of course, it's not fallible, and it's been much debated. For one, it takes an awful long time. So usually everybody is given for a review of a manuscript around 6 to 8 weeks. Then it sits with the editorial team for another couple of weeks. Then it goes back to the author. They might take up to, I don't know, a couple of months or so to revise. You might go to 2 or 3 iterations. So it's not a quick process. The scrutiny means that the quickest a manuscript is likely on average to go through from submission through to acceptance, if it is accepted, about 6 months, or can take as long as a year. And it takes time to do a really good review. And there are other issues with it, such as some people not working in the spirit of it, maybe protecting their area, being overly critical, trying to stop certain manuscripts. So it's not fallible, but it can really significantly improve the quality of articles and also the quality, the innovation within a field. How does it happen? Well, you submit an article. Usually there is, whether it's Manuscript Central or something else, there's a central submission site for journals. You submit a manuscript, It's then checked by the admin team, passed on to the editor-in-chief. Depending on how large the journal is, well, the editor-in-chief is likely to be the one who does the first read of the manuscript. They then either disc reject it, maybe if it doesn't fit into the journal. So as editor-in-chief, actually, I desk reject around 90 to 95% of all articles that come into my journal. It's a very niche journal, and I see all sorts of submissions that have nothing to do with what we publish. So they do the first filter through. Assuming that it has been submitted to the right journal, it then gets allocated to an associate editor, or the editor-in-chief keeps it. The associate editor then invites, depending on the journal, the type of submission, 2 or 3 reviewers to complete and submit their reviews and recommend decisions. Okay, the associate and the decisions are reject, major revision, minor revision, and accept. So let's say associate editor invites 2 people to send reviews. After 6 or so weeks, they get those reviews in. Maybe one reviewer has suggested major revision, another minor revision. The associate editor will then have another read of the manuscript and the decisions, and will then make a final decision at that point for the manuscript. So where the decisions, or recommendations rather, from the reviewers differ, they will make the ultimate decision where it should sit, and then communicate that to the authors together with the review, and maybe give an additional steer as to what the author needs to focus on. Okay, so unless the initial decision was reject, steps 3 and 4 are then repeated until either the article is rejected, maybe because the authors are just simply not responding adequately to the reviews. If you have major revision decisions after the 3rd revision, it is likely that the article will be rejected. However, more normally we accept that, you know, authors respond adequately, and after sort of 2 or 3 revise and resubmits, maybe even 4, you'll then move to accept that article. Okay, so let's have a little look at the 2 main roles here that we've identified. The role of the editor, associate editor. So this is who you will be invited by to provide your review and who you'll be working with. Okay, I mean, the editor / associate editor, they carry overall responsibility, and as I said, they invite reviews, they make final decisions. Okay, and in that process, both by inviting you for a review and then reading your recommendation and making decisions, bearing in mind those decisions might be different to what you've recommended. Okay, they're unlikely to be majorly different, but they have to take all reviews into consideration. And the other thing they have to ensure is that the aims and purpose of the journal are achieved. Okay, that quality standards are upheld, both by authors, by the articles produced, by the reviews provided by reviewers. Okay, that also means really nudging, ensuring that the discipline, the field of study is pushed. Yeah, if they start to notice that in the reviews there might be certain biases in there, or potential good developments trying to be stopped, then they might take a decision to exclude a review. Okay, or they might give the authors a steer to look at particular issues highlighted by 1 or 2 reviewers. Okay, again, that helps the field, the development, and really they need to ensure that at every single step principles of equity, transparency, fairness are maintained, and that the peer review process in particularly is adequately managed. Decisions are made in a fair manner. Where there's particularly big discrepancies between what reviewers recommend, as an editor-in-chief or associate editor, I may then ask for a second opinion if I am not so sure myself. So working within the editorial team to again really make sure that we are doing justice to the authors as well as the reviewers who've taken the time to look at the manuscript. Usually you work in as an editorial team, so with other associate editors, and you also have an editorial board. Editorial board are those who've are part of the community. They can be quite small or quite big. Usually meet with the editorial board once a year to talk about general matters of the journal, quality, ethical standing. And you also draw on that editorial board who are usually colleagues who publish in the journal. You also draw on them to support you as reviewers, etc. Okay, so you work with editorial boards as a sounding board as well as to support the standing of the journal and the working of the journal. So it's really within the associate editor and particularly editor-in-chief's role to nurture and maintain the journal community, both in terms of readership, those submitting, those understanding who submit what's expected, as well as having a healthy database of those who do peer reviews. Okay, so they maintain the academic integrity. So crucially now, the role of the reviewer. Again, assuming for a second you've never done this before. Okay, some of you will, some of you may have not. As a reviewer, usually you will engage in what's called a double anonymized process. So where you do not have the information on the author details, and equally the author will only see you as reviewer 1, 2, or 3, so will not know who you are. So you both don't know each other's identity, and that's really, really important that that is maintained. It helps to minimize bias, preventing reviewers from being influenced by anything else but the academic quality, the quality and the rigor of the piece that you're reviewing. Okay, so you're not influenced by knowing who they are, gender, reputation, affiliation, characteristics. And again, from an author point of view, that's really important because it means that you're not being judged by who you are or how much experience you are. Yeah. And most journals are really committed to EDI standards, giving researchers at different career stages and for underrepresented groups an equal chance to get published. Okay. Your role is really, it's to read thoroughly, carefully, maybe 2-3 times a manuscript that has been submitted, and then if it's resubmitted, a revised manuscript, and provide a written, fair and impartial evaluation of that piece of work. It should be solely based on the academic merit, yeah? How rigorous has been done, the research behind it, the writing of the article, how clear is the contribution to knowledge? Are they situating themselves clearly against the existing body of literature? You usually provide this written review through the journal submission portal. So usually when you get invited for review, you'll get an email. There'll be a hyperlink where you can accept, okay? And then you'll get a follow-up email with a hyperlink directly to that manuscript where you can download it. And then there's usually a sort of, for some quite structured with lots of sort of sub-questions, others just sort of a few boxes where you can put your feedback into, but there'll be a submission page there. So some may be quite detailed prompts, others just a comments to editors and comments to author box. The comments to editors is really there if you've got any serious concerns or you want to make comments that you don't want the authors necessarily to see. Usually reviewers fill that in if they have got some form of serious concerns. The comments to the author, again, you want them to be as impartial, as constructive and detailed as possible. Okay, sometimes you may also be asked to particularly consider the fit with the aims and purpose of the journal. So how do you write this review? I would say if you don't know the journal well, if you've sort of been invited for the first time to review for a journal, have a look on the journal website. Make sure you familiarize yourself with the aims, purpose, look at the author guidelines, look at what the authors were expected to do. Yeah, and then also again, have a look at what is required from you during the review process. Are there any particular headings for your review? So make a note of those. Then read the manuscript. When I did it the first time, I think I read it 3 times or so, you know, because I really needed to read myself into the manuscript. The more of those you do, the quicker you'll get. So read the manuscript carefully at least once. I usually then have a pad next to me and I make notes on that pad. They can be as detailed as needed. You won't be able to make comments on the actual script. So if you want to particularly highlight sections, there'll usually also be lines there. By all means, make a note of those on your pad. Again, there might already be prompts that you've been given, but if you haven't been given any prompts and it's sort of just a box you need to fill in, then I usually ask myself the following sort of things. Is this journal the right outlet for it? Does this manuscript speak to the readership of this journal? Okay. The particular field that is it clear what this article is contributing? Yeah. Then I look at the overall structure, clarity, quality of the narrative. Do I understand what this article is, what this manuscript is trying to say? Do they keep their promise that they're setting up front? Yeah, or you know, are things changing? How well are they working with relevant and current literature? Are they engaging in good academic scholarship here? Are there certain references that are missing? Are there certain literatures that they're not looking at? Have they misunderstood something? And are they particularly clear how they are adding to that literature? How sound, therefore, is the overall conceptual argument, the gap that they're closing, and how sound is the methodology that they've used? So when you sign up to be a reviewer, be very clear about also the methods and the areas of expertise that you can work in. You do not want to overcommit, or you want to reject those where you feel, actually, I do not have the adequate knowledge in this area, or with regards to that methodology. What's the quality rigor of the analysis, the discussion of findings? Are they working through those in depth and then going back to their original aim, saying clearly what it is that they're contributing? Again, you know, some reviews already prompt you with those sorts of things. Really, really important. Stay within the space of constructive criticism and be as detailed in your advice as possible. It's not about rubbishing a paper. It's not about tearing it apart or protecting the status quo or you know, imposing your own views on them. That's not what it is about. It's about putting the manuscript under a microscope and scrutinizing it, really unpicking, okay, any inaccuracies, anything that's missing, anything that's not being said, that's not being looked at enough. And this is why, if you're sort of starting out with reviews, you might want to sort of go through the manuscript several times, because there might be different things that you're picking up each time. Okay, really with a view to ensuring the rigor and quality of research that is required for publication in a peer-reviewed journal, and with a view to wanting to enable the field to move forward. Okay. And don't worry. Yeah. There will not just be your voice, there will usually always be at least 1 or 2 other reviewers. And I know from experience, every reviewer sees something slightly different. Okay. Sometimes when there's some glaring mistakes or things missing, those will show up across the reviews. But this is why the associate editor or the editor-in-chief will look over the manuscript again when you've made your recommendation and read your review, and will give the authors an additional steer. Okay. Okay. So then why do this? Because as you can already tell, you know, if you do this, it's going to take a little while. I mean, I would say the first couple of times you do that, it's probably going to take you 2 to 3 hours. Reading through a manuscript attentively. Manuscript, they're usually somewhere between 7 and 10,000 words, just the written text. Somewhere between, I don't know, 24 and 30 pages. That takes an hour. Yeah, an hour, maybe over an hour. Because it's attentive reading. It's not just quick reading through. You then want to take notes, maybe read over it again, another hour. And then you'd be surprised, even if you know exactly, and you've got in front of you what you want to write, the actual writing of the feedback and then checking over it, it always takes longer than you think. I always think, oh, I'll quickly do this in 5 minutes. And then half an hour later, I'm still there. Okay. So make sure you make space and time for that. So why do it if it is quite time consuming? You don't get paid for it. What's in it for me? Well, it improves. There's no doubt around it. If you do this reviewing, it will improve your own writing. Why? Because you're going to start to get perspective. You're going to see other people's work. It's going to show you the good, the bad, the ugly, really, of So you'll get a sort of feel for it and learn from what other people, how other people have presented their work, both in ways of how you don't want to do it and what you might want to do yourself in the future, whether it's structure, presenting of argument, etc. You also start to get a better understanding for how journals work and what reviewers are looking for. So the more reviews you do, the more, you will start to think yourself, well, for a start, let me avoid all these silly little sort of editing mistakes that might annoy reviewers when they read through something and they don't, spelling mistakes have been made, for example. Or as a reviewer, you might start to get really annoyed if somebody promises something and doesn't deliver. So when you start to write your own articles or submit your own articles, that might be something that you're really focusing in on. Okay. You also, if you review for a range of journals, you'll then see the associate editor's decisions, and you can start to see what a journal is looking for, what that particular editorial team is looking for. And overall, I think it's really healthy. It develops your critical thinking skills because you're really pushing yourself. You have to listen, read attentively, think about what other research is important, and write it up in a constructive way. And if you can do that for a journal, like, for example, leadership is for me, the journal, you can really become a core part of a journal's community, shape the knowledge creation in your field. Improve your research by knowing the latest research before it's even been published. As an editor, that's obviously even more so. I see so many interesting ideas that people are exploring. Okay, but you also have that benefit, of course, as a reviewer. And there have been various times over the years where I've reviewed something and I thought, oh, that's really interesting, or oh, I hadn't thought about that, or I was writing on something similar, related, and I was thinking, oh, I need to bear that in mind, when I work up my contribution. Again, see what specific journals want through the feedback from editors. Usually, or quite often these days, you get to see the decision that the editor sends out to the authors. Okay. If it's a revise and resubmit and it comes again to you, which it should do, you'll also see the author's response. So that's also very interesting to see. Again, you might pick up some hints and tips about how to do a good author's response to the reviewers and editors' feedback. Okay. And it allows you to network. So if you review for the journal, the associate editors will start to know you. So next time you submit a journal, they might notice and say, oh, okay, yeah. Or you might get at some point invited onto the editorial board if you're seen to be contributing to that journal, which is, of course, a good way of networking with colleagues. So you might now ask yourself, and this is the final slide, how do I become a reviewer? Well, contact the editor. So first of all, identify a journal you're interested in. And I would strongly recommend make it a journal that you want to be part of, you know, in terms of the community that you have already or might want to submit an article to. So if you haven't, I mean, obviously, if you've written a paper and submit an article, you'll be on their system anyway. Yeah. But if you haven't had any prior engagement, contact the editor. If you know of another colleague, senior colleague, or another colleague who already has connections to that journal, ask them to recommend you. Some journals also send out calls for reviewers. Some publishers send out calls for reviewers. Some journal publishers allow you to register with them on their reviewer database. Again, as soon as you submit an article, you get added automatically to that reviewer database. If you're unsure and a bit nervous about doing your own review, again, maybe ask a colleague who is already doing a review whether you can shadow them. Maybe, you know, or you could ask the editor whether you can shadow a review, yeah, where you're allowed to have a look at the manuscript and also the review that the colleague is writing. Something else that's good to do is working on your external visibility, making sure your university website is up to date. And if you aren't already registered with things such as ResearchGate or Google Scholar, do that, yeah, and make sure you clearly add your own work and your expertise, because again, if I, as an associate editor, sit there and I need a reviewer for something and I type it in online, that will bring you up, okay? And finally, attend conferences, network. Go to the meet the editors sessions at conferences, speak to colleagues, you know, have a conversation about, well, where do you publish? Are you part of a community somewhere? Okay, so get yourself known, seek out. Some of these publishers also do trainings, reviewer trainings. Again, that will help you get your name on the map, added to the database, etc. But I'll stop there. So this is a whirlwind through my experience being a reviewer, particularly in my discipline, but also maybe from an editor's point of view. You know, how is the relationship there? What am I looking for from reviewers? Are there any questions? Anybody in the audience who would like to either ask a question or also just share their feedback from their discipline? I can probably stop sharing, actually. And then I can see more people. Anybody got anything they'd like to ask or share? Sam, you've unmuted yourself. Yeah.
Yes, I have. Thank you very much. Yeah, you've really said everything. Like you rightly said, it depends on the journal, the culture of the journal, yeah, and of course the subject area as well.
Yeah.
And yes, what I have, my own journal is relatively new, about 2016 we started. In fact, we are trying to revamp. We are going to change the title of the journal, and some of the people on our editorial board, they are not performing. We are going to take them out and replace them with those that are active. And so therefore, the opportunity is always there. And Springer, they have a database of people that work in this area. Now I'm using a number of them around the world. These are people I don't know at all. And so, of course, we want people to do what a quality review for us, because our journal, we aim to reject 95% of papers sent to us. We are hoping that only 5% of papers will be published, because we want to be ranked like the KB Journal of Business Ethics. So this is our goal. So I think you've said most things. What is important is that anybody that wants to get themselves into this area, they must try and affiliate with somebody that is already working in the area. And they can then get their own profile known on ResearchGate and all this network we have that talks about what we do and how we do what we do. Thank you very much. Yep, I've learned a lot from you. Thank you very much. I just thought. Thank you.
No, that absolutely. And actually, if anything, I can speak from the position of editor. It's sometimes really hard to find not just good reviewers, but reviewers who are available. We are all so tight for time. The number of times these days where me and my associate editor team contact reviewers and they say, I'm really sorry, I don't have the time. And we sort of go through 5 or 6 people before we find somebody. So if you're interested, to reach out to the editorial team, because they will be very happy to take you on. Danielle, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, you're talking exactly about what I wanted to say. So I have reviewed a number of papers, but because interpreting is quite a small niche, kind of market, I get quite a lot of requests, and every time I'm just thinking, all this is for free, and I didn't know what the trend was in the market. Maybe I'm thinking I'm going to ask some stupid questions here, but never mind.
No.
Reviewing, is it always done for free? Because as
Yes.
far as I'm concerned, I've always done it, for free.
Yes.
I'm trying to be selective, what I review, and exactly with the journals and so on and so forth. It's very difficult in our field not to know the author, because again, it's such a close market that we tend to know the author. And I've got another stupid question. Maybe shoot me, if I say something really stupid now, but obviously I'm on ResearchGate, and I think we all are. When you publish an article in a journal, what is the agreement? Because I couldn't find this anywhere. Between, can I just take that article and put it on ResearchGate?
Well,
exactly. So
question.
Could you tell us a little bit more about this? Thank you.
Well, I don't think that's right, Danielle. So first of all, yes, reviewing is always done for free. Being an associate editor is done for free. When you move to editor-in-chief, there might be, for some journals, it's not really a salary or a payment. It's more a sort of
honorarium.
Well, yeah. I mean, what we for example, get is not necessarily that. So we get a sort of budget more for the journal. Let's call it that, a budget. So yeah, it is. I mean, and you don't really become a reviewer or an editor for the money. It's really because of a commitment to the community of scholarship and journal. Because the time you put in is quite substantial. Now, ResearchGate and uploading and publisher policies. Publishers have different policies on this, so there's usually some sort of embargo involved. I would generally recommend both for London Met Repository as well as ResearchGate to use the file. If you're unsure, I mean, you can also just ask the publisher, but the easiest is to use the final Word document version that you have if you want to upload that, rather than directly from the journal website. So the publication process, or post editing one. Now I can see some hand up. Nigel, you had your hand up very, very briefly, but then put it down. Did you want to say?
Yeah, thank you. I was just at the start, I think it was the second slide, you twice said about protecting the journal or protecting the field. I just wondered what you meant by that.
So not in terms of limiting research, that's certainly not, and I wouldn't want to bring that across, but protecting in the sense that protecting the integrity. Ensuring maybe is the better word. Maybe protecting is a more defensive sort of notion. I should probably replace that with ensuring. I mean, you have the responses. So if I think about not my own, it's not my journal, but the journal that I'm looking after as editor-in-chief in the moment, I feel a level of sort of protection in terms of ensuring that it stays true to its aims. And each journal will have a different aim and purpose. And we need to make very careful, balanced decisions. So when I've worked for example, I prefer not to desk reject anything, but I have to desk reject in order to ensure that the journal stays true to its aims and scope. So there will then naturally be things that are outside. Similarly, if I allow, and we get some really interesting things. I mean, I won't share any specifics, but anything from really poor scholarship, so potential plagiarism, to more shoddy scholarship, as in you don't carefully disclose your sources, to we had one that was submitted, it was sort of a bit autobiographical, that was actually linked to a criminal case. Now, if you are not careful and really scrutinize both the manuscripts that are coming through, not with a view to trying to stop good work from being published, I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about maintaining the credibility and academic standing, ensuring that there are no fraudulent activities happening, that there's no poor practice coming in. Okay, that's what I meant. And that probably then leads more, or is the reason why I used the word protect, not to protect the status quo at all. I mean, our journal, for example, is all about pushing forward. And the sorts of things that we have to discredit are those that are maintaining the status quo too much, because we're looking to challenge. But yeah, and again, with that, I think a good practice is reviewers to suggest, what, if there's something missing, what should be added. From an editor point of view, is saying very openly, I'm really sorry, it doesn't fit in the remit, but here are some other journals where your work fits more adequately. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I think a really good point. Thanks, Nigel. Akanksha and then Sam.
Okay, hi, Doris.
Hi.
So do you think because you crafted your research identity around one area, that is leadership, you were more likely to be referred as a reviewer?
Say that again, I didn't quite catch that.
Like, do you think because you crafted your research identity around one area, that is leadership, so you were more likely to be referred as a reviewer because of the expertise that you had?
The more you're known in the field, and this is why it's important to attend conferences, okay? So if you attend conference and you give a presentation and you have a chat, I mean, leadership is a small community. Critical leadership is a tiny community. So, and that has helped me be more known by others. And the more you publish, the more people, well, associate editors, editorial teams who are looking for reviewers will remember your name. It is about that. Most journals, or probably all journals, will have a search function as well. Okay, so they'll type in keywords from the article they need to find reviewers for. If you're on their database, and you will be if you've submitted an article, because the keywords that you've provided there will be put into the database, but also if you've registered with a publisher or a journal, which you can, and offer yourself as a review, you will also be asked for keywords, and you will come up in my editor search for reviewers. But again, similarly, often I'll sort of sit and I'll think, who's appropriate for this? Yeah. And I'll try and first think of the wider network and community that I know of. And of course, it helps if you can remember, oh, this colleague was presenting on this at that conference. Why don't I ask that person? Now, the more you're in the system and the more often you're used, the more likely you get reviews again, because if you've proved that you're reliable and you're a good reviewer, obviously people will want to draw on you again, and you'll be maybe more at the forefront of their mind. Yeah.
Also, one more question. So as an early career researcher, I got the opportunity to review for HRMJ, which I was really happy about, but certain more requests come. So do I look, so these are the journals I would look forward for publishing as well, but should I maybe just incline myself towards reviewing for these journals, or should I be also reviewing for other journals as well, like 2 stars or things? Should I
That's
go
a
for
good
both?
question as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have never really rejected something just because it was a particular starring in terms of reviewing. You need to, of course, make careful decisions. if you're submitting to a 4-star journal or reviewing for a 4-star journal, it's very likely that you will be one of 3 reviewers. If you submit to a 2-star journal or 1-star, you're likely to be one of 2. And or you like, if you submit your article there, you're likely to sort of face only 2 reviews. If you're just starting out, don't be too limiting in your choices. I think be strategic in the sense that engage with those journals that you're interested in. It doesn't do any harm in doing a review for a 1-star journal once in a while, or for 2, 3, 4. What it will show you is the different types of manuscripts that get through to peer review. Okay, so the sort of article you'll see for a 1-star journal, you're hugely unlikely to see for a 4-star journal. And that can in itself be really telling and really interesting, the different sorts of articles that you get and the quality of those. Now, Konstantinos asked the question, can I drop some editorial articles here about reviewing? Absolutely. Yes, please, Konstantinos. That would be great.
Yeah, I'm just trying, but I don't see the attach icon.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
I'll find it.
It should be, there's a type your message and there should be a little, so the way I see it on my computer, if I go to the chat, type a message, underneath the type the message box, there's a few icons there, and there is, I don't actually know the English word for it, but there's the attached files one. What's it called?
I don't see it.
You don't see it?
No, it's crazy.
Equally, you can email it to me. If you let me email it to me quickly, then I'll attach it myself.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it's the new update. I tell you, the new update, MS Teams, it's throwing everything about. Sam, you've got your hand up.
Meet myself. Yes, I wasn't sure what the question that Danielle was asking about ResearchGate, whether she was saying that can you put what you have reviewed on ResearchGate or your articles on ResearchGate. That was all I wanted to.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Danielle, I thought it was your article. Sorry.
That's right. The article that you've written yourself. I wouldn't really ask about anything about a review.
I think if you are registered with ResearchGate, your articles will automatically be picked up, and they will ask you, were you the author of this article? And if you then say yes, then it goes under your name. Yeah.
Yeah, it's happened to me as well before. I've exactly the same thing happened. But now, for example, I've just had an article that was published, last week, and I've got the book and everything, and I wanted to find out whether, I could put it there, and I contacted the editors, but I haven't got any response. So I was just wondering, really. Yeah, thank you. But I'm sure it will be picked up as well, as you said. Thank you, Samuel.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think once you've heard from the publishers, fair dues, you can upload the sort of final polished product. But I never have. Honestly, I have very, very little on ResearchGate. Actually, I should probably have more. But I have always erred on the side of caution and only uploaded the production stage article. I think it's the final stage. It's the production of the final piece, and I've usually added the pre one. Okay. And again, the same also holds for ResearchGate. The repository, London Met repository. Nigel, yes.
Just quickly on that, I once colleagues had uploaded everything, and I got a request for a copy of what was uploaded, and it was the actual journal version. And it took some months, but eventually ResearchGate came back to me and gave me a slap on the wrist and said, "You don't have the copyright to do this."
Yeah,
because it's the published version. So there is a monitoring to it, and they will eventually catch up with you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Nigel, I assume the hand was up because you shared this example with us. Is there anything else that you wanted to ask, or no? Okay, you've taken that down. Great. Got another couple of minutes. But if there's nothing else, I think Konstantinos is still trying to maybe email me the articles. And I mean, oh, Himakshi, yes, your hand. Go on.
No, I think this is the, before you go on research leave, I again want to say my gratitude to you, because I'm here at 18 years. And since you have joined, the progress, the confidence level, the appreciation, motivation you've given to us, and the length we have come across is like, seriously, I have seen it parachuting. So thank you so much. And we always appreciate your hard work. You always appreciate, and you're a friend, philosopher, and guide. Everyone can just come to you and tell you, open the heart. So thank you so much. From me personally, I started just 2 years now, and I can see. And if you would have be with us, I'm sure we would have somewhere else. So the time comes. But thank you so much, and I wish you all the best for a very fruitful, relaxed, and result-oriented research leave.
Ah, that's so kind of you, Himakshi. Honestly, you make me blush. You always make me blush. You know, I'm anyway, no, it's really kind of you to say. I've just received from Konstantinos. I'm just trying to somehow my I mean, my research leave is going to be super busy. I wish I could say it's going to be relaxed, but the set of things I have to do, the sort of set of tasks, the list of tasks is rather steep. So I don't know. I shall go into it motivated by everything that you've said, Himakshi. Yeah, I will be back for more generally head of research stuff in mid-July, obviously. Nelly, you've got your hand up. Yes. You are muted. You're still muted. I'm not sure. Yeah. Let me see if I can physically unmute you.
I think there's no option to unmute.
No.
There's options
No,
to mute
there
the
isn't.
participants, but not to unmute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe if you want to write it down, Nelly.
Yeah. That's all right. Konstantinos, did you just send me an email? I saw something flash up, but now I can't seem to be.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, with the attachments. 5 papers, articles.
Yeah, it's not. It sort of was flashing up, and now it's not showing in my inbox. How strange.
Really?
What's going on? Yeah. How very strange. So it was normal email. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it pop up and then it disappeared. Let me have a look whether it's accidentally gone into, it's gone straight into the delete folder. Maybe I pressed the wrong button. It was probably my fault. Right. Okay. Okay. Here we are. Right. I should now be able to put them in the chat. Oh, here. 1 second, everybody. Downloads. Okay. Right. So everybody, there's there we are. Okay. So in the chat now from Konstantinos, a few articles, different journals that talk about the review process. No problem. Thank you, everybody. I think we're probably over our time now. So hopefully you'll be able to download, you should be able to download those articles. Yeah, any other questions? Just
there are no more questions. And thank
no.
you, Doris. I think I second with whatever Himakshi said. You have been an absolute great mentor for me as well in my research journey. Thank you for the session today.
That's all right.
Thank you everybody for joining today. Also, the center has organized a 3-part career upskilling series. We had the first part today for reviewing for journals, and 2 more sessions would follow up in the subsequent months. So we look forward to have you all in the upcoming sessions as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Bye-bye now.
Bye for now. Thank you, Doris.
Thank you,
Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.
All right, thank you, Doris.